What up?
What's going on, guys?
What's happening? Again, thank goodness it's Friday. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Yeah, thank goodness it is Friday. That's
TGIF, as always. Beginning of the week for some, the end of the week for others.
Yeah, we're running a couple minutes
late.
late.
Work shift for some people. Woo.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties before it started, so we're a couple minutes late, guys. Sorry about that, but we got it fixed up. Everything's good. This is Rolling Thunder Audio Live Stream, episode 26. And this week, the episode topic is things you should know before 3,000 watts and lithium. What do you think about that, fellas?
Did you say 1.21 gigawatts?
Yeah, gigawatts. Yeah.
That's what I thought you said. Yeah. When you're pulling some power, you're going to need some power, right? So.
Yeah, and I think what better person to have than yourself. You just recently dropped a video. If these guys haven't seen it in the chat, Andy actually dropped a video a couple weeks ago that what was it? It takes power to make power, or something along those lines, wasn't it?
Yep, that's it. Absolutely. I feel like that was a video where a lot of people could see, real-time results between voltage drops and power that the amp can make because the voltage is there or it isn't. And absolutely, it takes power to make power. Quicker you learn that, louder you'll be.
Yeah. What do you think, Casey?
Oh, for sure. Like, these people buy all these amps and stuff. Like, you can go get a Teramp 8K right now. You know what I mean? And spend no money on it. And then, you take it home, you hook it up, and you have a stock lead acid battery, stock alternator, and your Toyota Corolla, and it just dips into like 9 volts, and your whole car shuts off. And you're like, what happened?
Wow.
You melt the stock alternator.
Yeah. The amp goes in protect immediately and is dead.
Yeah, the amp's trying to pull more current than your vehicle can provide, your electrical system can provide.
And that's one thing I was going to drop right into now is like, I wanted to start it with, we're not even as relatively in the game, been around a decade or so now, but I grew up in it also. But not only that, it was a lot of 90s, early 2000s is when I grew up in car audio. Even in that time, there was no lithium then. It was just large AGM banks. And, 4 to 10,000 watts was a dumb amount of power. Now, there still was extreme builds where they had crazy arrays of batteries and amplifiers, I'm aware. But, even in the competition lanes, 10,000, 12,000 watts, you're big time in it. 55 dB, 155, 154 on an audio control meter, not even a term lab. There's just different levels to it. So and that hand in hand made lithium and or even that 3,000 watt number, which that's still a lot of power. 3,000 watts is a power, but we didn't ever have that. So there's a lot of knowledge base that you're going to gain from starting out with smaller systems and learning how things work, I feel like. And obviously the lessons that go hand in hand with them, and whether it be tuning or your voltage and stuff like that, because it's going to be a lot smaller. You might have 80 amps you can draw maximum. I didn't want to go ramble on it, but you guys can see where I'm going with that, though. There's a lot of, I think it's too obtainable now with all the DIY stuff and the people that are selling small, there's a bunch down for sound selling and excess power selling and Limitless, all those guys. You can still ship it to your door, man. You throw it on a Firm or Snap, Eczema, Bread, credit card, cash, they'll take it. And you could have a lithium make tomorrow and a huge ass amp and know nothing about the basics of how the audio system works or electrical. But
right. I know, and I feel like the power then and now, the average system had maybe 100 watts because the woofers weren't that big. They didn't require a ton of power. Yeah. And now your average system, walking in the door is about 1,000 watts. So we're tenfold on the power, but we're still running the same batteries. So we got to upgrade the batteries to keep up with the rest of the systems.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, like in your video and the take power to make power, I've seen it. Maybe some people haven't. Or what do you think would be a recap on, a fast throw at it on a correlation of voltage drop and, rated power, what you're getting on the amplifier? So you have, two things at hand: a rise and voltage drop. What is that doing to the power of your amplifier, Andy? Right.
With the voltage drop, that's why I did 2 different amps so that we would have a different scenario: a bigger amp and a smaller amp. One thing was the smaller amp, there wasn't as noticeable of a power drop, even percentage-wise, compared to the larger amp that required more power. Because I kept the same battery, but then I just had a smaller power supply, 10 amp current, and a bigger power supply of 100 amps. The smaller power supply could barely keep 12 volts. Like that was straight. The battery was doing all the work. The power supply wasn't doing anything.
So you're off reserve immediately.
Right. And that's usually what happens when you put a 3,000 watt amp on a stock alternator. You're relying on your battery. So whenever you upgrade your alternator, you know, a 200-300 amp alternator, it's going to do majority of the power, and then you're going to have your reserve. And that's another way where lithium comes into play, because you can get away with, like me and Rob were talking about, you can almost cheat the system compared to an AGM battery. You can have less lithium and still have more power. And we're not really worried about amp hours in a way as, you know, other batteries rate their stuff, because we're not putting at a slow draw over 20 hours. We need an instantaneous base, and that's what lithium can supply.
I'm glad you took in
discharge.
Yeah.
They have like a discharge, like a 50C rating. I mean, that's for like
retarded, but yes.
You know, like, 10C, 20C, and then you get in the C max more, you know, depending on what you get. And that's the thing with lithium too. When I first started getting into lithium, it's like you can go online and just buy whatever, and it says like, oh, this handles 70 watts. But then you see people that are running other things that they put together, or they bought from someone who put it together, and the information's kind of hard to attain on these things. You know what I mean? So it's more of like a personal research. Like you have to ask people, and like, you know, boots to the ground type of research with lithium, and that's why it's kind of been on the rise, because like, you know, people want what they can't get. You know, so you see someone with a big C-Max bank, and you see their voltage is 15.5 or 16 volts, and they're just smashing base, and it's not moving at all. You're like, how in the world did they do that? You know what I mean?
How?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up that way. And that's actually a fantastic example on more AGM versus less lithium. You know, so I've been on lithium about a year and a half now. That's how long I've been having. You know, I went replaced. I had 560 amp hour of excess power, 12 volt AGM. Did great. I never dropped it below 12 volts. I'll tell you that. But you know, I didn't want that. I wanted 14.4 volts. So like that's even a thing. I was only drawing around 300 amps of current. You know, but it would go from 14 volts to 12 volts, where my my reserve was at pretty immediately, because my alternator at the time couldn't keep up with what I was pulling out versus putting in.
Right.
So I was like, okay, cool. So I asked Casey, we pulled out my bank of excess powers, and they're fantastic, amazing batteries. And it was because I didn't have the alternator at the time, but we threw in a 40 amp hour of EH5 lithium that I got from him out of the head of his Tahoe. I replaced a huge, massive array bank, which again kept fantastic at 12 volts, but replaced it with a tiny little lithium battery. The car started faster, lights were brighter, you know, everything, and I gained voltage. I was immediately in the 14s where I wanted to be, and but there's a trade-off with it though, because you know, I could, for instance, my alternator went bad in the excursion. I was dead serious, was able to drive it back and forth to work, not base, twice. It was 20 miles each way with a dead alternator, you know, just,
wow.
It was fine. You know, like I had AC going and everything. I think Casey, I was like, yeah, I drove home.
Yeah, he's like, oh, wow. It's not working right now. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You must have good AAA, you know, long range, just in case, running that AC far on the way, you know.
No, he's got triple friends, and we just come like...
Yeah, come scumbag him into it. Yeah, but the difference was, though, is, you know, replacing that, you can leave the light on for 4 days, you know, the door stays open, who cares, it's fine. And that lithium, when you in a 40 amp hour, you'll kill that thing with a dome light and a cigarette lighter overnight, dude. So, like, you got to be careful. And that's
the trade-off. Reserve doesn't matter until it reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's another thing where people think that they're getting more amp hours out of AGM when they buy it. They're like, oh, I'd rather get this AGM. It's got 110 amp hours. That lithium's only got 40, but that's not how batteries work at all. At least for what we're doing and how they rate them too, you know.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
It's crazy, man. They're just so dense. Like the energy density is so intense in these things, man. It's like...
Right, especially the C-Max and stuff, like the higher voltage cells, yin-longs and stuff like that. I know the lithium iron phosphate isn't quite as powerful, but it's, I guess, safer because of the chemistry makeup of it. And that's why a lot of, you know, lithium batteries, at least, you know, right, they're different compared to what you guys are running with the yin-longs and other stuff. But obviously they make them for more than just car audio, otherwise they wouldn't just be here. You know, so people do use
actually
them
making an 18650 battery now. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
There's LTO 18650 batteries, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So what I thought would be cool is take, and we'll just play it off. I'll go first with it, and we'll say something you need to know before you get to 3,000 watts. So we already talked about lithium a little bit, which we can touch back on it. And but for the longest, again, that was unobtainium. Even until recently, I would say even in the last 2 years, lithium's gotten more affordable because they're just the market's so flooded with LTO sales. I feel like that the other guys had to be affordable too to compete, and I feel like it's cutting down on the price of it. And now, obviously, with shortage and stuff like that, you'll see fluctuation and stuff too, and prices are going back up, which is part of the game. But lithium and AGM aside, I didn't have 1,000 watts till, I mean, like real 1,000 watts till I was a grown ass man, dude. So like, I mean, dead serious with you. I mean, I am said, yeah, exactly.
It makes you think, like, how many times have you thought you had 1,000 watt amp, and it may have done 1,000 watts, on a bench, right? But you put it in the car,
or some dynamic burst or something.
Yeah, not even close.
Rolling around 400-600 watts for days, man. It'll get you by. It'll get you by.
Just like you were saying, you count your mids and highs power, the radio power, 200 watts in that radio.
Damn
like
straight.
It's a 1,200 watt system right here, guys. But but I feel like there's a learning curve, like I said, that you're going to beat when you do that amp installation stuff like that, and you're only playing with a couple, a 30 amp fuse. Worst you're going to do is pop a fuse or ground something out or whatever, pop a fuse. So, like, you're not going to blow a lot of speakers. I didn't blow speakers till I had power, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure I had systems for years, set the gain by ear. I was doing bass boost, all that stuff, in the radio, and I never blew speakers. I didn't have enough power to clip them hard enough to blow them. So, like, there's a lot of learning curve, and that knowledge you're going to get and going on the forums, you're going to see the stuff. Again, the market being able to go straight by it now and have it, not know anything. I think we can go one at a time of things you should know before you have 3,000 watts. So I think we'll start off. We touch base on electrical. I think you need to make sure that you're spending the proper money on feeding an amplifier. I think the best thing that you need to be focusing on before you're focusing on buying a large amplifier, before you're buying a lithium battery or anything like that, you need to get the most expensive source unit you can get, okay? You need to start your system with the most expensive radio you can afford to buy.
Well, hold on. Don't just put a blanket statement over that, because there's some radios like...
Oh, okay.
I'm selling radios for 100,000. Listen.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
gotta buy mine.
As within reason from a reputable manufacturer, you need to spend it and get the highest amount of pre-out voltage you can get, and then obviously the features that go within that.
Like a Pioneer ENIAC.
Oh, I love Kenwood radios, even some of their entry-level ones, yeah.
It's like building a house. You want to have a strong foundation. The source is the foundation.
A lot of guys are like...
going to be as good as the source. Like, put so many Band-Aids and DSPs on it, it's only ever going to be as good as the source.
Hear me out. A lot of people think, okay, cool, I'll skimp out on the radio a little bit. I'm going to put an EQ in line, which I don't like, or a DSP it after.
DSP and an EQ. With all
both, yeah. And you're gonna have all the bands, 32.
All the bands.
But anyways, you want to go downstream with the most stuff you can get to, and then the higher pre-out voltage you have, the less work your amplifier is going to do. Your gain for your pre-input voltage to be amplified, multiplied to meet your rail voltage. That's pretty much what you're doing when you're setting the gain on a DAB. I'm not quite familiar on a full bridge, but you're matching the pre-input voltage is being multiplied amplifier to the amplified rail voltage that's now being multiplied. Okay, they make them match each other. That's how you're like, I'm not touching it. I got no gain. Well, yeah, you probably got good pre-input voltage of that amp. You barely cracking it. I did a Terra amp and asked Casey. I moved my thumb on it and it was just screaming. It was this far. I mean, like, yeah, but the
so pre-input to a gas station and came out and it was screaming.
It was dead.
Running at the gas pump.
My gain's all the way down, but my bass on my head unit's all the way up.
No, this is a 400x4. And so it sounded okay, and we're driving, we're testing it, it sounds good, it's really loud.
Kenwood DDX.
We go in to get a drink because we spent all day doing
I'm pretty sure that's the radio. All right, he has a 9707. Yeah, I think he has a 9707 also. I have the 9606. And I fucking love that radio.
You're gonna be waiting on that a while, bro.
My
distributors haven't seen those like 6, 7, 8 months.
I haven't seen them since last Christmas. I got mine 2 Christmases ago at a banging deal actually now. But any rate, so okay, radios aren't available. We understand that.
Here's how it's
going to go into that after that. Okay, let's be realistic. Okay, let's say for instance you're out of the equation. I can't put a radio in my car. A, not available. B, I'm stuck with some car that's got a radio built into it. you need to spend the most amount of money you can on a line out converter or a key lock or anything along those lines you can. You do not want to use some shitty, non-powered or even crappy little box with 3 wires coming out of it in line out converter.
You could also do like a different input source too. Like they have different import sources that you can do, and you could use it through Bluetooth. You could do like optical in, depending on what you do.
You can get a kicker amp and do speakers straight into that bad boy high level and bypass. A lot of times people you'd get better input into your kicker amplifier by throwing that LOC out the window and going straight into the amplifier.
Yep. Absolutely. If you got a clean signal, I know the Kicker Cube, they had literally Q-class amplifiers, the 500.4s, as literally just low-level drivers to go into the KX2400, so they could DSP everything on the quad. Yeah, and then they'd have other. Yeah, it was beautiful, you know, and obviously they had a podium, and that's where everything started. But still, it was they knew what they were doing from the ground up.
Yeah, on a factory radio, I mean, it kind of sucks. Like if it's a really bad one, like some of the boards, you can just completely do a completely different input than the radio. You know what I mean? You can use your phone, iPad, whatever.
Yeah.
Into like Bluetooth style processor or something like that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What's up, the abstract? But Dean said it famously like a year ago, and it kind of stuck with me. He said you're either going to spend the money on a source unit, or you're going to spend the money getting the signal that's going to be equal to a source unit to your amplifiers. And a lot of times, it'd be Casey. I'm sure you get the same thing. Andy's like, "Oh man, I want my stereo to sound like this." You're like, "Well, yeah, there's a right way for you to do things too." So Andy, I'll let you take it next. So I was saying on the source unit or the line out converter, what do you think? What's something else somebody should know?
For whenever you're getting into that bigger power wattage, I mean, shoot, in my biggest system I have, I'm only clamping under 3K. I'm clamping 2200 watts. That's the most I've ever clamped, but I see so much in the lanes. I get my hands on it. I do a lot of research, so I kind of understand, and I mess with smaller things and really push them to the extreme to learn how electricity and power works. And the one thing that I see a lot, where people, they start clamping over that 1,000 watt range, they're 1,500 watts clamped or 2,000, and then pushing it some, and it's like, listen, you keep blowing fuses. You got a 450 amp fuse up front, but the problem is, it's not you're pulling 450 amps, it's you're pulling it that whole entire length from that alternator to the battery, or the front battery to the amplifier. How the amplifier makes power, yes, it's getting it from the alternator, but it's getting it first from the battery, and that battery is going a 10 to 15 foot run. So what happens is, if your power wire isn't up to size, or if you just have it on a long run, your resistance is higher. So if your resistance is higher and you need to pull the same power and your voltage is either dropping or staying the same, guess what happens? The amperage goes up, and that's the problem. So whenever you have a short run and you have a battery in the back, your amplifier to your battery, a foot to 4 feet, it's a very short run, so the resistance is less to that initial draw of the power. And then the battery is going to be taking a lot of the brute. So what I try to tell people is, listen, add a battery to your vehicle. If you're clamping over 1,000 watts, you need a battery. I don't care if you got 8 gauge running front to back, add a battery if you got over 1,000 watts pulling on the back, because you're going to start melting stuff. You need that draw going to that battery in the back, not across your whole car. That's why they have fuses, because things can catch on fire. Fuses don't blow. Guess what the next thing's going to be? Your firewall. And then some.
I'm ecstatic. And that's one thing we're kind of like, I'm not going to take any notes. I wish I did now. Your battery in the rear acts as a dampener also for its draw onto the front, okay? So, like, you're doing an amperage draw, okay? You're throwing a lot of shock into that wire, okay? Because it's trying to not only feed from your alternator backwards, but then you're sucking back on it. So think about it literally like a freaking straw. It's a water pipe, okay? Same thing is, the bigger that thing is, the more it can flow, okay? Not only that, there's also a good cheat sheet if you look up for amperage draw per footage, what you need to be running. But as far as when you're doing that load back and forth, when you're trying to alternator trying to feed the back and the battery feed the back, and you're sucking back on it, that's going to translate to heat in that wire, okay? That battery there, even like if Andy said, if you're underpowering it or whatever, it's going to be shocking. It's going to be throwing that shock to the battery, pulling off of his reserve, and then obviously what's being fed into that battery, and not translating to heat. And it's going to let, even if you're under gauge somewhat, it's not going to be a good thing. You'll see voltage differences and stuff like that front to rear. You never want to be more than 0.3 volts front to rear, by the way. 0.3 volts is like, I think it's pretty safe to say, Casey. 0.3 is be maximum. But
I wouldn't say 0.3.
yeah, 0.2 maybe.
Not even that. Yeah, I want to keep the same voltage front or back.
If you got a
So like that's the thing in moving from what Scott was saying earlier. With my recommendations as far as like where you go when you start a high voltage system, or not high voltage, but high amperage, high power system. You really should do. I mean, if you're running stock battery location, everything, you're not doing lithium. You got to do a big 3, man. Maybe like 3 or 4. I mean, you got to upgrade the vehicle's ground, especially if you're grounding in the rear. If you don't run your own ground to the amp in the back, which I think is the best option, it's just a lot more work, a lot more money. The body ground is sufficient, but you need to, when you ground to the body, the only thing that the body's connected to in the front to the battery is this little bitty wire, a stock wire that goes there. So it's only as good as that ground up front. So your ground in the back is only going to be good as your stock engine ground, body ground. So you really need to upgrade those from the engine to the chassis, from the charger, from the charge post to the alternator to the battery, and then the engine to the chassis as well. So those are the 3 things you really need to upgrade. And Hi-Fi Vega sells those, and I think that's a cool thing because the big 3's become more prominent now. I think it wasn't a big deal back then. People just threw shit together, or maybe that's just the people I surrounded myself with back then, but now it's not the same. But that and an alternator. Alternator's a really big deal. You can only pull as much power as you're getting. Like for me, I have 2 370s and then the stock alternator. The charge all my factory stuff on mids and highs. The 370s do my lithium bank. So I don't get a lot of voltage drop. But the lithium's a game changer, man. I mean, the discharge and the recharge is so intense. Like they charge almost immediately. They discharge almost immediately. There are safe chemistries out there. So we're really teeter-tottering, though. Everyone wants more performance and the most maximum discharge that they can get. We're teeter-tottering on the chemistries that are out there on safety and performance. You know what I mean? There's a trade-off in safety and performance now. With the AGMs, you just added as many as you could, and whatever, you just play all day, whatever.
You can series parallel them, all that stuff, get voltage you wanted.
Yeah, these lithiums don't perform unless they have an input amperage. Like you have to have something feeding them, or you're gonna kill them. You're gonna discharge them, and you can only discharge them so much safely. You know what I mean?
When you said performance and safety, I thought of a Geo Metro with a V12 engine in it. You know what I mean? It's like you're getting all one thing, and that's it.
The one thing, this goes more towards the 3,000 watts. Crossovers.
They're important.
I think crossovers is a really big deal. You see it all the time. You see full-on builds pretty much on the base pages, and the guy's like, I don't know what any of this means, and he's got his crossover slopes pulled up, and you're like, bro, how did you get this far into a build? And you're like, I don't know what a crossover is. So you need to know what your high pass setting is going to be for obviously your mids and highs. Let's take DSP out of the thing right now. We're going to say somebody's 3,000 watts thing. High pass crossover is going to be obviously the crossover that's the high pass filter on your doors. Okay, the frequency you set that at, you're going to have a crossover slope on everything below that. So let's say, for instance, if I set the high pass crossover at 150 hertz, okay, and at 12 dB per octave, preferably 24 probably, depending on what you have your setup on, what it is. You're going to put a slope. So let's say you got a thing here. Here's freaking your 150, and then you do a crossover slope. Boom, it's going to come off sharp. Okay, so that means you'll still play these lower notes. Sorry, wrong way. You'll play these lower notes here, but they're going to be at a roll off, where you'll play them at a lower dB. Okay. So like you can, that's where sometimes you can get away on setting a really high crossover slope, depending on what you're powering it with, and setting a high crossover point with a really low slope, and you can play pretty low on some speakers that have a really wide frequency response. And one thing you need to be mindful of is paying attention to your speaker's rated frequency response. Hopefully you buy them from a manufacturer that provides with them, and be mindful of, let's say if you have a speaker that plays 120 hertz to 16,000 hertz, you can't just go set your crossover slope at 120 hertz. It's going to have to be higher than that, again, with a roll-off to put you somewhere where you're still playing in that range. And I don't want to ramble too hard on that one, and the same correlation goes with your low-pass filter. Okay, that's your subwoofer stuff. You're going to set it at a point, and it's going to play everything below that and have a slope on everything above that. You really want, I prefer the sharpest crossover for 24 dB per octave. And
Mine said it 40 hertz.
Yeah. He's like, I don't care about anything above 40 hertz.
And speaking of that, In crossovers, I see Brian Thompson just picked up a DM810 to go full octave. I just talked to my audio control dealer, and we were talking about it, and he said that they have a built-in subsonic of 20 hertz. They roll off naturally 20 hertz. No matter what you do, you can't get rid of that. And I was like thinking about doing a DM810 on mine too, and I'm like, that would hurt my performance. So wait, I'm 15 to 30 hertz. That's all I play. So
yeah, but you're not going to play that. You're not going to put that on your subs.
I kind of wanted to.
Yeah, I seen that comment you threw up. The guy asking if you needed a fuse for a 10-inch run. I mean, fuses are pretty much there for just in case situations where maybe if you have a voltage spike, but that rarely happens with our kind of stuff. Usually it's just overdrawing current, stuff like that. So if you think, like Cigar Joe said, like if you think you need a fuse and put one in, I have a fuse in the front of my car, but I don't have them in the back between the lithium, between the amp, because I know what I'm kind of doing. You know what I mean? Plus, there's BMSs in there. If something shorts, I trust JY that it's not going to blow up on me. And if it does, that's my fault. But I'm the one taking the chance. But usually when I have a system and I'm not too sure if, say, I'm kind of pushing it to the limits, and like I said earlier, with like long runs and stuff, there's a reason why that fuse is blowing up front. It's because you're pulling a lot of current and then there's heat. You just don't want to have a problem up front and then it travels back inside your car. That's where a lot of cars catch on fire. They have a firewall there for a reason, but guess what? That power wire runs through your firewall. It's going to keep going like you know what I mean? So fuses, they're not for dummies, but I believe fuses are good.
It protects the wire too. So like if you're in an accident, your body panel shorts out against the wire. It's a dead short to your battery.
Right.
Before I went too far and lost it in my train of thought. Also, going back to the crossovers, be mindful of not stacking crossover filtering. Is that a good one? Also, I think a lot of people are guilty of doing. Again, if you're using the radio's high pass and low pass crossover, you can pretty much just set the amp to full range, or with basic setup and just your subsonic stuff like that. But if you're using your low pass crossover on your radio and your low pass crossover on your thing, on your subwoofer, on your amplifier, you're stacking the crossover slope. So if you got them both set at 24 dB, now you have a 48 dB per octave crossover slope on your subwoofer, and vice versa. Is the same thing's going to happen with your high pass crossovers and your front soundstage. You can create a large dip in multiple areas of your frequency response and things along those lines. If you're stacking your high pass crossover filters, if you're setting it, let's say for instance at 150 hertz, again, the same thing. If you're doing 12 dB per octave on both of them, again, you've doubled that. So you're just cutting that range way sharp down to where that's not going to be playing that frequency. And then your subwoofers are not going to be playing that frequency, obviously. So you just got to get gap in sound. That's all I had on that one.
I've been guilty of that, you know what I mean? Like you're on your head unit and you set it at 80, or let's just say you set it at like 50 hertz at like a 12 dB slope on your head unit for your subwoofer, and then you go back on your amp and you're looking at it, you're like, I'll set it to 70 to 80. Well, guess what? That head unit ain't even going to give it anything above 50 at that 12 dB slope where you think you're going to set it on the amp, because you already set it up front. That's why usually, I let my amps wide open, and then I set it with the head unit. If I got a good head unit, it's got lots of slopes and everything, you just do it on the head unit. Yep. Otherwise, with the amp, you're pulling over, you're tweaking it, and then you're getting back in your driver's seat and you're driving a little bit further. Been there, but absolutely one or the other.
Yeah, good. So it's your turn next.
Me?
No, it's Andy again.
Who, me?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have anything off the top of your head, I don't know.
Hi-Fi was wanting to know what's going on with our system. Andy, tell us.
Oh, yeah. Vega was asking.
Tell us everything in detail.
Who, me? Me?
Down to the last blue fur.
Hold on. I just got a message from Kip. What? Anyway.
Yeah, delete this.
Yeah. Nothing currently right now. Actually, with Cookie Monster, I'm pretty much just tightening and tweaking a few things here and there. I might actually, since you guys have been talking about it, I have some down for sound wire, enough for a run. I might run a ground front to back and remove the ground chassis where the amp is going, and maybe just hook up the amp to one of the JYs, or actually one JY, because I only got one JY back there now. But pretty much just fixing a few things, because my score did drop a little bit, and I want to be ready for other things, and I want it to be 100% show worthy. Like I still get in the car, I drive it here and there, and that's another thing. I gotta lower my insurance. I'm paying full coverage, and it's sitting in the garage. You know what I mean? But yeah, nothing with that really right now. Me and my buddy Tony, he's the guy that built the box. I just designed it. He's the one that carpented it and cut it out and did everything. So I'm like, hey, I need you to help me with this one thing. It's kind of big. So we're going to actually throw in some, probably, I think, an inch thick or almost 2 inch thick, literally metal rods going up bottom to top. The wood dowel rods over time, they come apart. Yeah. 13 to 17 hertz, and that woofer is just going like this. It's destroying the baffle. It's destroying, you know what I mean, the box itself. So I got a little bit of leakage. And my port.
I still have to pick this up. Speaking of braces, I'm sorry I just cut in, but Scott Bowman made me the dopest brace I've ever seen in my life, dude. Scott, can you pull it up? Do you know where it is? Can you find it? Okay, I'll find it.
What kind of brace is it? Like a metal brace, like twisty kind of, and then you just kind of bolt it in, or?
Yeah, y'all keep going. I'll send Scott a picture. You can pull it up.
It's got holes and lights in it and stuff.
Nice.
Mine right now, just like the same problem as yours. We did wood braces in the bottom chamber of my box for the top baffle, and since Slamology, I've blown them the F apart. So I've got some baffle flex. Now it's not terrible. I mean, like the speaker just moves a little bit, but. Obviously, over beating out over the course of the day, you know, playing 20 hertz, it'll break some screws.
Yep.
So I'm gonna do a rebuild. I'm yanking everything out. We're gonna change the baffle, and it's going to 418s and a 6 order.
418s? I thought Kicker didn't come out with 18s
yet. So might as well talk about it now. Obviously, it's been brought aware that Cigar Joe and myself are opening a Southeast Super Center, and we're distributors for Sundown. So I'm doing a Sundown build. So I'm doing the 4 CV6 18s and on Assault 12K, and doing a big 3-way active setup with a SDX6 channel on the front doors and kicks, and I think it's gonna be freaking tight, dude. And then I'm doing a DS18 loud pack in the barn doors.
Might as well. You know what I mean? They're there.
I got the space and the channels open, so
So you feeling 60 or bust? Is that what you're feeling?
You better, dude.
60 would be cool, but I really want to do full. I don't care. Okay, I can move hair now, but I want to do hair tricks out of all 4 windows down. Just fucking.
Ooh, that's tough. I'm thinking 63s right there. Yeah.
418s and a 6. I mean, it's still.
It should do it.
Is that going to be B pillar?
No, I'm still leaving C. I'm just rebaffling my
I guess
box.
you would have to if you want to do 4 hair tricks at once.
No.
Damn.
And it's still, it's gonna be cool though. I think I'm excited for it. And so, so we'll have to take my box apart. Why not upgrade? And again, we need a show vehicle and a demo vehicle for the store, and we're gonna got some things up our sleeves for Joe's truck also. That's gonna put that. If you think that's cool, I'm not even loud compared to this. We got going up to sleep for that Tahoe, but he has a one-off drivers being made for that sub. That's all I'm just gonna say. But Casey, what's up with yours, man?
I just sent you 3 pictures.
I'll pull them up.
So my Tahoe is about to be ignorant, hopefully. So we're doing 4. I'm doing 4 7500s at 0.9 each on 4 Pride ST18s in a 6 order.
Sorry, Joe.
Tune low. So I'm going for 60s on music at 20.
So what are you doing to it?
60 at 20?
Yeah, it did 60s at 20 before with the Sundowns, the ZV6s, and the Assault 12 at half. And it did a 161.4 at 24 hertz. So I'm trying to do that without breaking a sweat. When it did it with the Sundowns, I thought I was going to, some weird stuff was happening, yeah. I thought I had wrinkled a cone or something, and I went back there and I'm looking around, I'm like, what's that sound, dude? It's crazy.
It's just your spider ripping. It's all right.
Yeah, I know, right? I got to add some more LTO though. So I have 2 370 amp CESs and 140 amp hour right now LTO. So I need to add another 140 probably.
I wonder who has the loudest, lowest score. You know what I mean? We see 73, 77s. They're doing it at 35. Well, actually, there was a 180 at 35 hertz. The Russians, Def Bounce or something like that.
Scott took an acrylic tube and frosted it, and he slid it into that steel pipe. And then those are actually like steering connectors for off-road vehicles. They're huge.
Oh, wow.
That's like a 40-inch thing. It's huge, bro. It's like a cannon. So it looks like it's short and thick, but it's really long and thick.
Is that what you tell them? Is that what you tell them?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But he took the
That's
acrylic
cool.
tube, frosted it, slid it in there, glued it all, I guess, and then put a really bright LED at the bottom, and it just lit it up like that, man. And it looks really cool. He did a really good job. The paint job
That's
on
awesome.
that's better
You
than
did
my
good
car.
on that, Scott. Heck yeah.
Yeah, and then
That's
that's
awesome.
no Scott Bowman.
The Scott Bowman, not me.
Yeah.
Oh, Scott
So,
Bowman.
This
I
is
know
my
the
first
Bowmans.
Pride order since I've become a Pride dealer, and that's 5 of those subs. They're all in wooden crates. They build for them. 5 of those are TV3 15s, and then the bottom 4 are my ST18s.
Nice.
They're on the water right now.
And they'll be here in 4 to 6 months.
84 years.
Yeah, 6 years later.
Yeah, he'll didn't have 3 more builds since then.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, the amps are in the port though. They're in California waiting to get shipped over. So
84 years.
yeah.
I mean, you could just
Dude,
drive to
it's cool.
California, get a little dinghy, you know, be like, hey, you got them, you know, subs, you know, the things. Come on, man. Throw them
It's
down.
been a miserable wait, man. And my buddy Rob, he just got his 6 order done with 6 U15s on a Salt 8, doing like, I think he's doing a 60 now on one Salt 8 on 6 U15s, his 6 order. And Jake Zimmerman built it, and we're actually going over there Saturday to rebaffle mine for the prize. So it's gonna be intense. But dude, Rob came over, gave me a demo. Now I got the itch again, and I'm like freaking out. I don't know what to do. I'm spending all this money on RC cars, and like, I can't just sit on my hands and be still, man.
Too many hobbies, man. You got your pockets are tied, but you know.
Yeah.
I know those RC cars ain't cheap neither. Not at all.
I love them though, dude. They're so much fun. Is it actually? I lost 11 pounds last month hiking with them, man.
Michael Bell, I got a 12-inch 6-order console box, single cab Terra Amp 3K. I got a demo from Cigar Joe and Scott at the Muscle Show and got me hooked. Scott has a demo monster.
Well, thank
Absolutely, with them power hogs, man. H2s, was it the H2s you had in then? Or?
Yeah, it's still in there right now. Yeah, tomorrow will be the last show with him. I'm gonna yank them out, yanking it out. Yeah. So, and actually, I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, he's very cool. He had his kids with him and all that stuff, and I think he got in the truck multiple times. I think actually, and had a great time, dude. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's better than, man. Since then, I'm playing low.
That's why he's got to keep it C-pillar.
Yeah.
You know?
It's cool. I mean, I could go B. Like I could.
Brand new back seats though, like
brand. No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I was like, hey, that's what I was going with. This. Like, I could go B, but I got brand new leather seats, and I really enjoy packing 5 people in a truck and giving them demos.
Well, you could just extend the rear end of your trunk a little bit. You know what I mean? Like make the SUV longer. You know,
yeah,
like just fab it out. Make it like a bus.
I don't think you get it. It's a bus now, bro. Like,
yeah,
I know, those are huge.
Like, it's like an aircraft carrier.
I was gonna say, how many cubes is your 4th, or you got your 6th? Wait, you got a 4th order.
It's 52. It's a 4th. Yeah, I think it's 52 cubic foot. I think Jake might be still in the chest. I'm pretty sure it's 52.
Yeah, is Jake still in here?
That's a decent amount of space.
It's
for
huge.
a C-pillar.
Yeah.
That's a lot of space. Because usually you don't have that much space behind the second row.
Well, dude, like our buddy with multiple people's like older 2-door Tahoes or Jeep XJs and stuff like that, their B pillars would slide in my C pillar fine. I could put a lot of smaller SUVs B pillars in my C.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, you know, with what you had going on, but now you're going to go to 418s, you know, long as you get the airspace to whatever the drivers are, you know, what they require to get lower frequencies, like what you really want, you know, I think you could get there. Now, how bass works and how C-pillars are just harder to get louder because there's just more cabin to fill, more space for the waves to go. You know what I mean? Your window's not there. It's 4 feet up, and then it's there for that front window or wherever the meter is. You know, it's a little bit further away. But like you said, to have a demo vehicle with 5 people sitting in there at the same time, it's something you don't see all the time, especially car shows. You know what I mean? Like, or bass shows, like what we do. You know, usually you're tucked up in, or, you know, it's just you're by yourself and you're sweating like, okay, I'm gonna die. You know, you got your buddy with you just in case if you pass out. You know, some people pass out when they're, you know, getting a demo. You know, if you want a buddy with you, you got a C-pillar demo build, perfect.
Yeah, I love the C-pillar demo, man. And obviously I get scumbagged in hauling everyone every time we go anywhere. We're like, let's ride with Scott, you know, because we can pack everyone in the truck. But
I got really excited because High Five, he's talking about ordering 300 foot of one-aught. I'm like, oh, does he have a big build coming on? And then he's like, restocking. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like, oh, no. Yeah, never mind. No, he's not about that life. But I'm totally excited about doing the sundown build though. It's gonna be sick. I'm really excited about the SDX 6 channel though, dude. Because you can do active with it. And you got 6 channels, so I mean it's like out of the box. But heck yeah. So we covered our builds. What else should you know before 3,000 watts or lithium batteries, guys?
Be prepared to break stuff.
Yeah. It happens now. On the way home, like base had problems. I had my cup holders out, and it broke. My cup holders broke today. My dash is sitting on one corner.
The dash is completely broken.
It's broken. It's sitting on the dash.
I was like, "What is that vibrating sound?" He's like, "It's the dash," and he like reaches up and he like lifts the whole dash. Like,
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah.
It's gone, dude. Like,
Yeah.
whew.
You know, be prepared to not see anything out of your windows. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think with, whenever it depends where you're starting out at and your knowledge. And I think knowledge is key. Do a little bit of research before you go and buy stuff. You can always watch the YouTubers, and usually they're pretty thorough, but don't just watch one. Watch like 4 or 5 videos on the same product you're about to buy and get other people's opinions on it. And then maybe at the end of the day, you find out what you really need for that. But, just because you want it doesn't mean you got to get it. And that's how a lot of people do things. They want the sundown, say the X series, because they're like, wow, look at that surround and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but that's going to need like 2,000 or 3,000 watts. And like, how much bass are you going to get out of it? You could have something a little bit better for SPL purposes. Now, is it going to get as low, or is it going to sound as aggressive as the X? Probably not, but it might work better for you, and you might actually be happier with that at the end. I really think, researching your stuff is going to help you more than anything. To know what you need for when you take that next step. Because, anybody can get away with, 500 watts, 1,000 watts, 1,500 watts pushing it, you're clipping, you're seeing 1110s, you know what I mean? It's a bad day. But once you go past that, you really got to know what you're doing so you don't break stuff. You're not clipping your subwoofers. You're not hurting your amplifier from driving it too low, making it push really hard at low voltages. That's why they blow. Whenever you see people say, hey, can I run this amp at 1 ohm? It's 2 ohm stable. Well, how is your electrical? If your electrical's dropping down to 10 volts, it's not going to last. If it's staying 13, 14s, you're probably going to be fine. And if it doesn't, it'll go and protect like it should. Voltage is very key.
Yeah, voltage is really key. And again, that's one thing too. When obviously I was around knowledgeable people growing up, that doesn't just obviously just give you the knowledge base of it. But I had forums and stuff like that. It's before there were Facebook groups. I still encourage people, here's for instance, I was saying I've only had lithium in my truck for about 1.5 years now. I've had multiple chemistries of batteries now, but I've been on lithium about 1.5 years. I still went and added the groups. I looked at posts of like, hey, I'm not afraid to ask. Like, hey, welcome here. I'm Scott. Here's my truck. I have this battery. Is there anything I should know for sure, particular? And that's fine. But make sure that you're looking up and doing the most amount of research you can possible, and everything from wiring and all that stuff too. And I don't think we even touch base on it. Impedance. Before you get to 3,000 watts, you need to be knowing how to wire speakers appropriately, series and parallel, to get a desired ohm load that's stable for your amplifier. And it's not your amplifier's fault if you bought the wrong speakers for that bad boy to match its impedance to that amplifier.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because people, they might buy a 4 ohm subwoofer not knowing it's a dual voice coil, and they bought 2 of them, and their amp's only 2 ohm stable, and then guess what? You're either pushing that amp too low, or you're not getting the full potential out of it, or you got to run 2 amps, or all kind of different variables. Or you could have just done it right the first time and matched the amplifier with the woofers, or vice versa. It's a complete setup. Everything has to match to get the most out of it.
No, for sure, yeah, and that's one thing too. But I think a lot of people need to keep off the focused mindset also of wiring and amplifying to the dirt, that they're going to get the most power out of it. You need to be more thinking about having more headroom than you need for those speakers than trying to wire the amplifier into the dirt to get that power out of it.
Or put it in clipping.
Yeah, and not only that, you take in, on top of that, as a double layer, when you start wiring an amplifier down, and yes, there are a lot of fantastic chipsets and amplifiers that have modern board layouts that can handle low impedances and sound good and all that stuff. but you're still going to throw efficiency and things like your dampening factor and your floor noise level out the window when you start wiring these things into the dirt. When you're wired at higher impedance levels, you're gaining a dampening factor. You're gaining quite a few things that go hand in hand with being at a higher impedance. Are you getting less power out of the amplifier? Yes, but is it a negligible power where you're not even going to be able to tell the difference? Sometimes yes, also. And then two, impedance rise and efficiency go hand in hand. The more bandwidth you have, okay, as music bandwidth, let's just say for your mids or subwoofers, you're going to have more impedance rise because the point of your subwoofers exactly is going to be moving the least at its FS or the port tuning. That's where you're going to see the least amount of rise in that area. And when you're on other sides of that bandwidth, you're going to be getting impedance rise out the yin yang. I rose on my 415s box. You saw 20 ohms plus sometimes, and you burp at 6 ohms, and you're like, I'm wired at 1, dude.
But, I thought, and that was the same design with my platinums I had with the 415s, and I was fighting rise bad. I had 2 amps. I was clamping about 8K at the end of the day. And it did great, but before that, man, on 1 amp, it was so bad. Like starting at 1, it had pretty bad rise. In my box now, my 6 order that I have, it starts at half ohm and goes to 2.6 on burps. I'm like, God. And so where the Crescendo did about a little over 10,000 watts, the Salt 12 did almost 15,000 watts, same impedance. I like the amps that do rated like higher impedance. It's insane.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because I think they're like overbuilt, really. The ones that can do better at higher impedances are just overbuilt amplifiers, and they can just handle lower impedances without blowing up.
Well, not only that,
4,000 watt amp that's $100. It's not 4,000 watts.
No,
it's too good to be true. Yeah,
I honestly feel like, and it's a good thing, but it's more. They could call, your Salt 13K. They could call that a 17K amp, okay, or whatever they wanted to.
Salt 13.
Yeah, Salt 12. It could be literally whatever they could call it a 15K if they wanted to. Easy, okay. Well, that Salt 12K is gonna do it. You went not to say anything bad about the Crescendo, but you gained 4,000 watts going from Crescendo 17K to a Salt 12K.
It changed nothing. Yeah. Literally changed nothing. Right.
What's the Crescendo? Does it actually do 17K at 1 or half ohm or something? Or where are they getting the
load application?
24,000 watts out of the 17Ks. Mm-hmm. So they just, at 1 ohm, half ohm, 1.5 ohm, they do insane power. But once they start getting up in impedances, they go down a little bit, I think. But
means you just got to wire lower there, man. Quarter ohm life. That's what you need.
Quarter ohm life, yeah. Have to use this quarter ohm still.
There's a lot of things too people don't think about, like when you're down there and there's under half ohm especially, turn on pop and stuff like that can literally cause your amplifier impedance to drop so low, you just dead short pretty much.
Right. And also the closer to dead short your amp is.
Also, that's one thing, too. The at the end of the day, impedance is resistance in wire, okay? How much resistance is in the wire? That close to zero, the closer you get to zero, which obviously impedance doesn't just go up, it goes down also. It's still dead short, okay? That's meaning you literally take positive into negative and make a point, yeah. And I think that's one thing that's really not explained to a lot of people. I'm at half ohm or whatever. You realize you're running the ragged edge on this bad boy. And of course, some people get away with it all the time. But I'm saying you need to know what you're doing because you're that much close to literally just doing positive wire into negative little loop.
Like our buddy Jake Big on making an impedance graph. So what you can do is get something like a tone generator and see what your impedance is through your what you're going to be playing. You know what I mean? And see what the impedances are. That way you can kind of plan from there. Can I go this low? Can I do that phone? If you have little to no rise, that phone might not be right. But if you have a lot of rise, you have an efficient enclosure, smaller enclosure, longer cord, stuff like that.
Sometimes your rise can just drop too. Whenever you're applying a lot of power, it'll just go the other way.
Andy, you do good.
What did you do? 0.4 ohms on the T4000 on X? And it did
somehow it was playing
700 watts or something?
Yeah, it was playing music and it somehow dropped to 0.4 and freaking did 5,000 something watts for a half a second.
Whoa!
Yeah, but the Andy, you do good at that. When you're doing the amplifier dynos, you play. Obviously, depending on your impedance curve is going to change by what frequency you're playing. You play different tones to keep the impedance more towards the nominal impedance. And if you want to go into that a little bit,
Right, and that's sometimes a challenge too, because what happens is around a certain power range, the resistance, the rise, the box rise, where I'm trying to test for, will stay relatively the same around 0.2 from what I'm trying to get, like a 4 ohm run or a 2 ohm run. And then what happens is if I run a bigger amplifier and I need to do the same test and the speaker can handle it, what happens is the impedance rise can even go up higher, because then it gets more efficient, and then it can go right back down. And then because it's not getting any more efficient, because the woofer can't move anymore and there's just being more power sent, the curves are all over the place. So I really kind of have to, like, before I test a video or test an amp, I kind of have to sit there and be like, all right, let's see what it does first, because I don't know if I can test at 40 hertz with this for a 4 ohm run. I might have to do 43, because it'll run low and then it'll go up high to where I want it to be at the power rating at 1% THD. So there's a little bit of finicking around when I'm testing with the reactive loads compared to a resistive load, like how Derek and Rob and all the other YouTubers do. And I know I see one guy saying that those aren't real dyno numbers. I mean, they are though. That's what you're going to see at that rise. Now, if you wire at 2 ohms, you're not going to see that power. You're going to see 2 to 3 times the rise, and it's going to be 2 to 3 times less power than that. But then that's when it comes down to when we're talking about, wiring down low, but then is it safe? So I really feel like how when Scott was saying that, you kind of want to have some headroom, add more amplifiers instead of riding them into the dirt, or just, run bigger woofers so that you're not, if you do clip them, you're not going to have, a woofer that's done, because it all comes down to experience.
Buy subwoofers. If you're going to spend the money, I say $300 or more. I should even say $250. Don't spend your money on a subwoofer that does not offer OEM recones.
True, unless they're like so cheap you could just buy new ones. But then
that's why I did like $250 above, like $250 bucks. You feel personally attacked?
Yeah,
same.
Gotcha.
You know how many people are like, man, I need a spare for my L7. It's like they don't make them, but it's a $350 woofer. So I mean,
mine are $1,800 woofers, and they do not offer recon.
Okay,
granted, they said they'll replace it if something happens, and they're going to start doing it after the part shortages, blah blah. But
yeah, and then again, like there's certain stipulations that I'm meaning more of like the SPL base head oriented guy that's getting into it, learning. You need to have a reconable driver, because if not, you're blowing that sucker and you're throwing it in the trash can. Okay, like we keep talking about Sundown tonight. Like look at like a SA. Okay, it's right in that price range, or a Resilient Sound Gold, or things along those lines. Like if you blow that bad boy, which again, if you're learning and you're clipping amps stuff like that, you're going to be cooking subwoofers more than likely. You can take it as that learning experience instead of throwing it out into the trash can and having a paperweight, or having to pay some random guy to build you a subwoofer and then just changing the gap and parameters at the yin, where it's really actually a different subwoofer just with that motor. And fix that bad boy, keep it, don't throw it in the trash can. You can buy more and make them match each other and all that stuff, and you're not wasting your money. I just wanted to touch base on that one too, is recon.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's something you can learn to do, and then down the road you can almost build your own. After you do the drop-ins, then you can piece stuff together and be like, well, I want to get more lows, so maybe we shouldn't put a double spider on there, and we just got to watch how much power we throw at it, and we're going to try for some wind. There's ways to build woofers with different spiders and different surrounds and different types of cones and all kinds of stuff. After you learn how to throw in your first drop in, you're good to go. You'll be learning.
If you don't play low, I don't want it.
What do you say, Acoustic War? It's not real world testing because he doesn't do long-term playtime on music. I mean, you absolutely can. I thought about doing that for some of my videos, but it's like you got to watch with like how like the algorithms work. Some people just don't want to sit and watch a woofer flex and see if it lasts or how much power. I've done other videos of like real-time power and like frequencies, and I didn't really get that much interest in it. Honestly, it's pretty cool having an SPL lab because you can do that whenever you like. You can buy one for $6.99. It'll be the best investment you'll ever have. You can drive down the street, look at your SPL, and see how much power you're clamping real time, and then you can set a peak to see the most. That's what I suggest you to do, Acoustic. Absolutely. It sounds like you want to know about power and real-time power, because you'll be surprised how loud you are with not that much power compared to you think that you are clamping.
Yeah, and spend the money on the AM1 DD1 and of course the AM1 is the second to the DD one, but you need to be knowing clipping first.
Really,
but
I think just get the AIM one.
Yeah, the AM1, just run that. You don't even have to hook up a computer to your car. You'll just be set. Turn your head. Okay, 1,000 watts.
Power you're getting. It works.
You need to be, and that's one thing we really touch base on. And within the last, we got 5 minutes left, but buy the nice tools. You need to have quality crimpers. We've already had episodes on tools and stuff like that. You need to have quality tools to do your wire connections. You need to have quality stuff for your bud connectors and all that jazz. Don't skimp out on the wiring harnesses and the pack systems and all that stuff too. That's another thing too. You don't want to chop your stock radio plug off. Don't ever do that, okay?
Especially in newer cars, the radio is a junction point for CAN. Like the data is a junction. The radio is a junction point for like the data signals. So like the newer like Dodges and stuff like that I've had issues with it not communicating properly and stuff like that. You really want to get the right stuff for the job, really. You know what I mean? If it's worth doing, just do it right first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and some radios you can't even hardwire them like that, because sometimes they use a negative and a positive in one speaker lead for just how it's wired into the car. It's like a front and then the opposite side in the rear. And it's like, how do you wire that to a regular head unit, like aftermarket head unit? You can't. You got to rerun all the speaker wire. Better off just getting the harness.
Yeah, the Jeep JKs, if it's factory amplified, I think mostly the JKs. Yeah, you only have say if you get your pack harness or your access interface, whatever brand you go with, you plug it in. Your rear outputs are the only outputs that's available. On the factory plug, there's only 4 speaker inputs that come from the radio. And when you do your aftermarket, you have to wire your front ones into the rear ones. Otherwise, if your radio only plays the front speakers on a Bluetooth call, you're not going to hear anything because your back speakers aren't sending any, or your speakers aren't sending the signal anything. It's an open pin. So you have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense. That's how my Pilot is. Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't do any of that install stuff because I know every vehicle's different. Like how you know that vehicle and you need to do this with that, and that's very niche stuff. And it's like you got to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're doing. Once you start hacking wires, man, it's game over. You might as well get a whole new wiring harness, tear your dash out, redo it.
God needs to tear his dash out in general.
I'm gonna do a dash swap. I'm gonna do a newer dash swap so I can do a newer A pillar so I can do the pods. But we got right on 2 minutes left. What you guys doing this weekend?
Me? Amp dynos. Gotta get some done. I'm slacking. I'm a slacker.
Can you give me a teaser of at least one of them? What you're doing?
The next one's gonna come up is gonna be the Sony 444, that old school looking one.
Sweet. Oh, the red one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's gonna be the next one.
Cool. That's a cool amplifier. All those, they do rated power. They're just dirty. I'm sure it's gonna do.
Really? I mean, it's not rated for much, but it's rated at, you know how they used to do it, 0.00005% THD at like 30 watts a channel. I'm sure it'll do more. You know, it's got a 40 amp fuse on it. I don't want to blow it up, but it looks like it'll do a little bit of power. But
I don't mind seeing the lower power ones, man. I get just as much fun like seeing Derek do the cheapo ones. It's just the personality of it and like, hey, let's see these ratings. Let's see what it does. Right. Can you find stock specs on it, the RMS ratings, or no?
Yeah. That's another thing I want to try doing is maybe pulling up the manual more often for whenever I do the videos. You know what I mean? Like give a little boom so you can still frame it, take a look at it if you want. Especially for this one because it's an older manual. It's from 2002, I believe. The amplifier.
Wow, so it's a 20-year-old amp now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've been wanting to get to it. I asked my Patreons which one I should do first. So the 444, that's what we're gonna do next, and then probably some more Boss audio, get some gigawatts going.
Heck yeah. I'm going to a show tomorrow. Casey, I'm still a scumbag. You need to go, man. You better wake up in the morning.
I gotta work tomorrow, man.
Because I got something to do.
No, I do. I have
I got stuff to do.
Gig that's going on tomorrow.
That's all. Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to do a show. Yeah, we just decaled
it's
Joe's
3
truck.
hours away.
So he just doesn't want to go now. He even says he's going to ride. But go to a show tomorrow. We're going to show off the Southern Thunder trucks. We got them all decaled up, and Joe's truck looks sick.
Didn't even send a picture.
No, we're dropping it tomorrow, dude, in the daylight.
I guess I'll see it later.
Yeah, we did black and yellow on his truck, and it looks sick.
That's cool.
So we're doing that. We're giving away. If somebody wants to come see us, we'll be at the Small Town Showdown or something like that tomorrow in Dublin, Georgia, and I'm giving away like 100+ decals. You get a demo if you want one. You freaking got it, son. We're just gonna we're South Georgia and North. Everybody coming from that, we're just gonna be taking over with. You're gonna see Southern Thunder decals slapped on everything. So we got that going. And
hey, whenever you send me that kick ramp, send me some Southern
I got
Thunder
you, bro.
decals. I need.
I got you. I'll set them aside downstairs in a minute because I gotta put them aside to go out in the morning. But guys, this is a Rolling Thunder episode 26. Thing you should know before you get to 3,000 watts in lithium. I had a good time, man. That went by pretty smoothly. I feel like we covered some good topics, and I always enjoy hanging out with you guys. And I like seeing the chat's getting pretty active. I appreciate everyone that showed up and interacted. You guys got anything for you in this puppy?
Absolutely. I had fun with you guys too, man. This is always a blast, and I think it was a pretty good topic. You know what I mean? I like, power and how things work and batteries and input and output, efficiency, right up my alley. So I had fun tonight.
Heck yeah.
Maybe next week we'll talk about RC cars.
We can do RC. I kind of want to get Dave on. Scott and Mayo said he'd come on.
If you do RC cars, let me know. I will bring my Rattler, that 10-wheel thing. I'll bring it here.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I always keep that thing on me all the time, every day. Boom, I got one ready.
There you go.
So.
I got it down in storage. I don't want the kids to grab it, man. That thing is old. I remember I had that thing.
I made him a pride decal. I made a grenade on the top.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. There you go. It's bad when you got that decal maker, man, because then you just want to make everything you want to make, and it's like,
yeah, I've also had 50,000 people ask me to make decals already. I'm like 50 trillion gajillion people. Unless you are telling me I have cash in my freaking hand, or I have material and cash in my hand, please don't hit me up to make the decals. But no, yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, everyone. Be safe. Don't do anything stupid. Don't drink drive. Appreciate everybody.